What's up, y'all? This is Brave, and I'm back for another review of Tyler Perry's Sistas. This is season 6, episode 22, and the episode is titled Beautiful Lies. You guys, we are finally at the finale of this season of Tyler Perry's Sistas. It has been a very long ride. We gonna talk about this episode for sure. But I'm also going to talk about how season 6 played in our faces and what I'm expecting for season 7. So y'all are going to want to stick around for this video. Let's go ahead and jump right on in because we have Sabrina and Daniela having a conversation because Daniela has just found out that Preston is married, okay? So basically Preston went down to the courthouse or whatever so that way he could get married. He even took the time to send a message to Danny that says, you made your decision and I made mine. You're blocked from my phone and out of my life. Now, Preston, you doing a lot, buddy. You could have just walked away. It's not like y'all have to cross paths again. Like, I can't even lie. It's giving female energy. When you decide that you want to send a picture, it's bad enough you done married this girl, supposedly, with less than 24 hours of you and Daniela breaking up. Like, I'm not understanding that. Nonetheless, with all this news, you have Sabrina trying to check on her friend, like, oh, how do you feel about that, this, that, and other. It's very clear. Danny don't want to talk about it. Danny is like, well, you know what? I'm going to go out tonight and I'm going to go have a good time. So here goes Sabrina. She's like, well, we can still have a double date. Please no. Danny wants no parts of a double date, okay? She wants to hang out with Tony all alone, see what it's hitting for. Here's the thing, though. Sabrina had the audacity to tell her, oh, well, you get wild sometimes, and I don't want you to mess a good thing up. Girl, what? She gets wild sometimes? That's your way of saying you sleep around, girl, and I don't want you to do that with Tony? Bye, Sabrina, because y'all could have had this conversation a while ago. Because you the same person who sat there and was completely shocked when Preston was calling Danny out on her stuff, even though what she said that he said is not what he said, because she kept saying that he called her out her name, and that's never what happened. But you would sit up there so shocked, like, how dare he talk about you that way, and you saying the same thing. Sabrina, get your life together. So Daniela says that she don't need no babysitter, and she's going to be going on this date by herself. Good for her. Let's move on over to Andy. Because we have Andy, Penelope, and Gary all standing there looking stupid because Gary has popped up on them. As we all know, Penelope is trying to go have a conversation with Andy. Gary, he doesn't want these ladies to talk at all because he doesn't want them to go, back and forth sharing with each other, no. And that's really going to put him in the doghouse because he's trying to get Penelope back, okay? For some reason, he don't care about Andy, even though he just spent the most money on Andy, trying to buy her back into his life, which makes no sense to me. Like, I get it, money may not be a thing for him, but be so for real. There's no way you gonna be spending that kind of money on this girl if she wasn't that important. Nonetheless, he's begging for Penelope not to talk to Andy. He wants to have a conversation with her. Penelope keeps yelling, I don't want to talk to you, Gary. I don't want to talk to you. Okay, fine. Next thing you know, here comes Fatima, y'all. And she has to stand 10 toes down. And she's taking on Gary toe to toe. Because Andy and Penelope are just so scared to shoo Gary away. So at this point, you have Gary talking about well, I'm here to meet with my lawyer or whatever. And I'm like, what lawyer? Hayden just told you to find somebody else. Like, did we all not watch the same thing? Hayden just told you that you need to find another lawyer at the top of the morning because you popped up at his house. Remember? Oh, but here's the thing, y'all. He also told Fatima how trifling she was for what she did to Hayden. And speaking of Hayden, here he comes. He pops up and Gary's like, yeah, I'm meeting with Hayden. He's like, yeah. I'm like, Hayden, how are you back on Gary's side? You just went off on him. Then you went off on your girl. And now you back cool with Gary? It don't make no sense. But I digress. So, Gary and Hayden, they basically have an issue with Fatima. And now they want to seek revenge on her. I'm just like, all right, Fatima, you might want to watch it because now you got two lunatics on your heels. So, moving on. Now we gotta get back to Andy and Penelope, y'all. Because this whole thing frustrated me. So, Penelope, she's questioning Andy like, do you still love Gary? Do you want to be with him? All of this stuff, right? And Andy's like, I don't want to be with him, especially after all the stuff that was said and all of this stuff. All right, cool. Here comes Penelope. She's like, well, here's my list. Baby girl has compiled a whole list of dates, times, all this stuff between when she was with Gary and the times where he was MIA, times when he would take phone calls and she questioned if it was, another woman or not. So clearly there has been some moments with Penelope and Gary where she has definitely questioned their relationship. And what's crazy is that when they were at Jordan's house, they made it seem like they were in bliss, lovey-dovey and all of that. But come to find out, baby girl has been, peeping that something wasn't right with Gary this whole time. Now, y'all, let's get into this list real quick because sometimes, he was with Andy on those dates. She confirmed, like, yeah, I was with him this time or that. And sometimes he was not, okay? Now, this right here is when I said, you know what? Penelope, I wouldn't even mind if you were added to the show. Here's why. Because Penelope's smart. Okay, number one. Number two, it has been, 24 hours? And Penelope has already collected all this information. Andy, what was you doing? What have you been doing all this time? Because it took Penelope less than 24 hours to come up with a full list of whereabouts for this man. And she has picture evidence that there is about 2 other women also involved in this harem. 2 other women? I'm like, number one, y'all should probably all get tested. Number two, how does Gary have more than 24 hours in a day? Because it makes no sense. We have seen him harass Andy for days upon days upon days. Or just be at her house. All of that foolishness. Where do these other women think you are? Oh, my bad. You be on a business trip. That's crazy to me. But yeah, I think it's crazy how Penelope was able to come up with all this information in less than 24 hours. And the only thing Andy has been doing is soaking around saying, oh my God, was I that stupid? Yes. Yes, you were. Nonetheless, Andy's like, okay, well, we got to get to the bottom of this. So she's thinking we need to go to the source and talk to Gary. I'm like, no. Why would you talk to Gary when Gary is the one who's going to lie to you? If anything, since y'all already found pictures of the other girls wearing the rings, y'all should go reach out to those ladies because they don't have no reason to lie, okay? Like, be so for real. But no, Andy wanted an excuse to go talk to Gary. That's all that was. So, this is the part that lost me, y'all. Why in the world did Andy call Fatima to tell her, hey, Fatima, we need to go somewhere. Could you come to my office? As if they were going to be, actually traveling, actually getting in a vehicle to go somewhere. Y'all, when did Fatima become the bodyguard? Because they only walked from Andy's office to the conference room. Are you kidding me? Really, Andrea? You called your assistant to say, hey, we need to go somewhere, aka walk 20 steps to the conference room? Girl, get out of here with that. Please, Andrea. Now, y'all, this is where I was just so done with Andy because I feel like the whole reason why she wanted to go rush over there to go talk to Gary about this whole situation was just so that he knew that she had information on him. Because this conversation was no longer about Penelope and Andy trying to get to the bottom of something. This became a showboating Andy kind of flashing her relationship in front of Penelope, it was very strange for me. Let's just break it down. Alright, so they go to the conference room, right? And of course, Gary is still saying how he don't care about Andy, he don't want Andy, but it's all about Penelope because he still wants to be with her. Then out of nowhere, we have Hayden and Fatima going back and forth because, you know, at one point she had got him beat up and all of that stuff. And I'm just like, well, how did we get here? This conversation ain't about y'all. Let's get back to the story at hand. So, y'all already know, Gary tried to do his infamous look at me line, but he's doing this to Penelope. Now, Andy jumps in and is like, oh, he does that to you. He used to do that to me. It goes something like, look at me, Andy, look at me. Of course, she talks about how, you know, after that happens, he will come to her penthouse, you know, give her extravagant gifts, blah, 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 blah. For me, it was a little braggadocious for Andy to be like, well, he gives me all these extravagant, expensive gifts, and he comes to the penthouse that he bought me. I don't know, something about the way she was saying that, it was giving real braggadocious, and I wasn't feeling it. Because it was kind of like, yeah, girl, you may be pregnant by him, but let me tell you about what he did for me. But next thing you know, Gary, of course, is continuing to say how Andy don't mean nothing to him or whatever. And she's like, okay, well, let me drop another bomb. Here goes Andy. Let me tell you about the time that I met his wife. Now, Andy, again, for me, this is when you getting a little too big for your britches. Because you decided to mention how, oh, yeah, his wife hired me to be her lawyer, you know, in a divorce case or whatever. Even though, I don't even know if they got a divorce or not. Either way, Andy, you were still messing around with that lady's husband. And you knew about it. Okay? You knew who Gary Borders was when you saw the paperwork hit your desk. And you continue to mess around with him. So, no, I'm not about to give you no pass in, oh, you know, he has an ex-wife, blah, 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 blah. You participated in that foolishness. Okay? So, I'm not really feeling that bad for you. Now, when it comes to her saying that he made Jasmine crazy, that I can agree on. So now we got Gary begging and pleading Penelope to take him back. She doesn't want him, of course. She over there getting emotional. You have Gary basically saying how Andy and Fatima, they mess around with all these guys. And I'm just like, but you're messing around with all these women. So how are you any better? Like, the only reason why he is going so hard for Penelope is because she's pregnant. We all know that at this point. Of course, he keeps saying how Andy, she's nothing to him. And then Andy's rebuttal is, well, you don't mean anything to me either. Then she goes on to tell a bunch of lies. I'm sorry, Andy, who do you think you playing? Gary may, you know, listen to this, but we as the audience know that these are all lies that you are spewing. Andy got up there talking about somehow, oh, I just basically used you because of all the things that you put me through, and I got a Rolls Royce out of it, I got a penthouse out of it. It's like, girl, stop playing with us. You were never plotting and scheming to use Gary. Okay? That man, he just happened to give you lavish gifts and you accepted them. Like, it's not like how Tamara is plotting and scheming to use Hayden for everything he got. Total different vibes. So now that you've heard that he has another woman, now you're trying to say, oh, well, at least I reaped some benefits out of the whole relationship. Now, one thing that I will point out, though, is when Gary said it was all material when it came to Andy, I said, well, he do have a point here, because Andy sounds like she went through all this traumatic stuff with Gary, right? And we've seen it on the show. However, when it comes to Penelope, it sounds like he hid all of his flaws for her. It seems like there was something different about Penelope to where she didn't have to go fight his ex. She didn't even know if the man had an ex-wife, okay, or a current wife. I don't know what Jasmine is. She knew nothing about Jasmine. She probably knew nothing about all the other things that he had going on for 3 years, okay, 3 whole years. She was getting the best version of Gary. While Andy, girl, you got the crumbs. So Penelope is over this whole situation. She wants to leave out of this room, and that's what they do. The three ladies, they march right on out the room. And of course, Fatima being smarter than everybody else, she left her phone in there so that way she can hear what's going on in the other room by listening to her earbuds, right? So she gives one to Andy, and we can hear the conversation between Gary and Hayden. So basically, Gary says that he likes Penelope a lot. Likes her. Not even loves her, even though he just told her that. And he feels like she's going to come around because she's weak and, she loves him so much. I'm just like, ain't no way. Penelope needs to go ahead and pack it up and walk away from Gary. So Gary goes on to talk about how basically Andy means nothing to him. She's been ran through, and goes on to talk about how Penelope is the one that he's choosing. And he has already bought, all the other women all the same rings. He has no plan to marry them. And of course, while these ladies are listening, again, this is the part that annoyed me. You have Penelope like, okay, what is he saying? What's going on? She has no idea. Because who's listening in? Fatima. Fatima, why didn't you give her your earbud? Because at the end of the day, this got to do with Penelope and Andy. It ain't got nothing to do with you, okay? Like, the only thing Andy could tell Penelope was like, oh, girl, you're better off without him. You think? She already know that. Nonetheless, they start talking about, Hayden and Gary. They start talking about how, of course, Hayden wants to get revenge on Fatima and Zack. So, for some reason, Gary was like, I don't know about on Zack. And I'm like, you have no connection or ties with Zack. Why wouldn't you want to go ahead and get revenge with Hayden? Because y'all partners now. Nonetheless, Gary's like, oh, something's not right. Something's not right. And that is when he magically finds Fatima left her phone. Yeah, you did all that yapping and now you realize that she left her phone? That's weird. And what's crazy is she left it on the table. You would have thought that she left it like down in the chair or something. Nonetheless, Fatima goes back in there. She goes to get her phone or whatever. And that was that scene. So Penelope, she says she gotta go. This too much for her. She leaves. And Andy is still having her woe is me moment of, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know he was doing all this. And of course, here comes another person telling her how, girl, he balled out on you. He spent a bunch of money on you and you accepted it and it was what it was. Okay? So then we have this conversation of Fatima feeling bad for Hayden. Okay? She felt bad, once Hayden was starting to get played. However, Hayden, he has picked on her for I don't know how long at this point. Ever since she got with Zack, he has acted a complete fool. But Andy does tell her that she was wrong for bringing Tamara into the picture. Now, here's my thing. Andy, I get what you're trying to say, but at the end of the day, Fatima had to do what she had to do to get Hayden off of her back. Okay? And it actually worked. Because once he got with Tamara, he was no longer interested in whatever Fatima and Zack had going on. Now, let's go ahead and move on, y'all. So, we get to Karen and Brian, okay? And she has talked to the realtor, and she's on her way, right? So, we find out that it's not going to be Valerie, who we all know from the Zatima franchise of the show, or whatever. And it's going to be a woman by the name of Chelsea. It's basically Valerie's partner when it comes to the realty company. Fine. So, Brian already knows Chelsea, okay? They have already worked together previously. He's familiar with her. And Brian is going to negotiate on behalf of his friend who owns the building. I said, I know you lying. Sir, you do construction. You may have put up the walls. You may have put up the sheetrock and the drywall, but you're not about to negotiate on my behalf. Ain't no way. But I digress. So, old girl gets there. And Chelsea is like, oh, hey, Brian, because, again, they are familiar with each other. So, he's telling her a price. I think it was like $175 per square foot or something like that. And she was telling him, like, no, that's too high. Blah, blah, blah. They going back and forth. Next, Brian, he ends up walking out so that way Chelsea and Karen could talk. All right, fine. this is where things got too damn weird for me. Because Chelsea is like, oh my gosh, like, he really likes you, Karen. All of this stuff about how this man likes her and how he's such a good man. He only does things for his wife. It was just too much. Too much, too soon. I was not here for it. I was not here for this woman to be ranting and raving about how this man is such a good man, how he, he only does all this for his wife, he raises his kids, all of this stuff, that's great. But then when she tried to flip it, and she was like, oh, you guys rode together in the car? Oh, he must really like you. Yeah, he likes you. Girl, he likes you. I said, first of all, how many times are you going to say that? Secondly, what was throwing me off is you're trying to make it seem like there's like some infidelity about to go down. And that's not what we're here to do. You're supposed to be telling me if this is a good price or not. You get a little too comfortable. And then Karen, you got too comfortable with old girl, because why did you tell her that this was Zack's baby? You could have told her that you was pregnant. She don't need to know who the baby daddy is. That's none of her business. But you so proud to tell everybody that it's Zack's baby, even though it looks crazy. Talking about well, it wasn't when he was with Fatima. Girl, that's on a technicality. Stop playing. That whole scene, I'm telling y'all, it was so weird. I don't know what is going on with that situation with Brian and Karen. And from what I've heard, there's going to be a 3-month time jump. And honestly, the way that they set this last episode up, y'all, I would have never done a time jump on it. Because there's so many things that are very unclear. And Brian and Karen, that's one of them. But let's go ahead and move on, you guys. So, we have Fatima, she goes home. Zack is over here talking about I'm thinking about buying my child back. I said, what the fuck are you talking about, Zack? He said he wanted to give Heather $100,000. So that way, she would leave him alone and he's going to get Michael. Fatima tells this man, that's a dumbass idea. Because if anything, she's going to want more money. And probably this won't even stand in court. And I'm like, yeah, because who the fuck is going to go buy their child? So, like, how do you take that to court? Like, yeah, I know we found all these reports and everything, but I bought my child from her, so we good. That is not how the fucking system works. Like, where are we going with this damn storyline? It makes absolutely no sense. So, y'all, this man talking about he got papers drawn up. Can somebody please tell me, what lawyer does Zack know? Who is Zack's lawyer that has the time to play around with Zack and his foolishness and say, yeah, let's draw up some papers on that. So that way she can sign her rights away because you paid her. This sounds like some level of extortion or something. Something ain't right with this. He had the audacity to say he could get it notarized and all of this. Y'all, I'm sorry. Their storyline, I'm glad that we're getting a 3-month jump. Because I'm sick and tired of the Fatima, Zack, Heather, Michael situation. Because, y'all, I'm going to hold on to it. Let me hold on a little bit longer before I really go in. But y'all, I'm so sick of this storyline. Let's go ahead and move on. So now we have to see Sabrina bothering Danny yet again because she wants to go on this stupid double date. Girl, it's not going to happen, okay? Let this idea of a double date go because it's giving high school. Please stop. Then she continues to tell Danny not to sleep with Tony. And Danny, she's like, okay, well, you like Rich, so make sure that you don't sleep with him. Now, Danny, she says that, they don't even know Tony like that. And I said, ding, ding, ding. Finally, you say it. We don't know Tony like that. So I'm not understanding why you are just so comfortable with that man. Because all the things that Tony has told you is about yourself and how he has been creeping around listening to what you got going on. I don't understand how she's interested in him. So Sabrina, she's like, well, I have a good feeling about him. Sabrina, we don't trust your judgment either. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't see it for Tony. So they end up getting off the phone or whatever. And Sabrina, of course, is talking about I'm going to show up to your house. Sabrina, leave Danny alone, because clearly she don't want to be bothered. So, moving on. After they get off the phone, Sabrina, she's yelling out in Maurice's house like, oh, Maurice, I'm about to leave because I've been waiting on you for hours. I'm like, why were you still at his house? Like, Tyler, when I tell you you have dropped the ball with Sabrina's storyline, baby, you have dropped the ball. Nonetheless, Maurice comes out in his little dominatrix short set, and he talking about basically he gonna do some OnlyFans so that way he can get some money, because he acted like he cannot apply to no other job, unfortunately. So what got me was that he was talking about how tacky her outfit was, and he didn't look no better. Like, no better. But I do agree with him. Sabrina, I know you're not wearing that on that date. Please stop. That outfit was a hot mess. But moving on, y'all, we see Danny. She's about to clock out from work, right? Here comes Tony. He's so excited about their date. And he's like, oh, I'll walk you to your car or whatever. And she's like, no, don't worry about it. I got it. So they talk about the fact that even Rich is blowing up his phone talking about some let's do a double date. Again, cornball. I'm not understanding why Rich and Sabrina are so adamant about a double date. It's giving weird. Nonetheless, you have Danny basically insinuating that something else might go down between her and Tony later on that night. And I'm just like, Danny, what else do you have to offer? Do you have any type of self-esteem? Because my God, it is giving so desperate. But nonetheless, let's wrap this on up, y'all. Heather is hollering at Michael. Zack and Fatima, they are at the door. She lets them in. Zack tries to do his bargaining where he is offering her money. At first he offered her $25,000, then $50,000, then $100,000. And she said, oh no, because I want $1 million. This girl wants $1 million. Like, are you serious? He just wants his custody of his son or whatever. Speaking of little Michael, we find out that Heather has tied this little boy up in the bathtub. Now, here's where I said, yo, why in the world did I get it, it was in the moment, they rushed in there to take him out of there, but nobody took pictures? I'm sorry, but if I'm trying to fight for custody of my child, I need to have evidence that this girl is a trifling mother. Baby, when I tell you I would have started recording, this is how she had my baby. She has him tied up in a bathroom. You know what I'm saying? Like, get your evidence. Get your proof that she's an unfit mother. But no, what did they do? They kidnapped the child, y'all. They have officially kidnapped Michael. We gonna see how that turns out. Moving on, y'all. So it's the last scene. Danny is walking to her car. Her car is completely towed up. Glass busted. Everything's messed up. And there's a guy. He comes up behind her and snatches her up. Y'all, that is where the show ends. I'm like, okay, I'm not understanding why Tyler decided to do a 3-month jump, you know what I'm saying, on this type of cliffhanger, but I digress. Now, y'all, I did say that I was going to go in on everybody real quick, and I realized that I should probably do a separate video. I really should, because I don't want it to be too long for this one. So, only thing that I will say is that season 6 has been all over the place. A lot of the ladies have showed their ass, and they have showed their cards, and I'm just not here for it. I'm really hoping that season 7, they step it up. Because we have been watching this show, y'all, for 6 seasons. And I'm sorry, the material that we've been given, it ain't working. So hopefully when we get to these new writers, it will all, start to make sense. Now, y'all, like I said, I'm going to be dropping another video right after this one. It's going to be about season 6 and my overall thoughts of the season and what I'm hoping for season 7. I'm telling y'all are going to want to tune into that video. I'm going to definitely have the link listed below. Let me know what y'all thought about this season finale. Did it feel like a good season finale to y'all? Let me know in the comment section. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to y'all in my next review. Bye, guys.